She may look meek, but there's a lot of potential in her. Hey guys, MasakoX here. Now episode 93 confirmed what we'd all been expecting for many months, ever since we first saw the first promo for the Universe Survival arc back in January. 5 months. A 5-month spoiler. Good work, Toei. In it, we not only saw the arrival of the concept of a female Super Saiyan within the main series of Dragon Ball, but also a Saiyan who could unlock a power similar to Broly's, and therefore be dubbed the title for many months, Female Broly or Brolina. Ugh. I remember at the time of the promo's release that I did a video on this, and I remember stating that one of my biggest hopes for the character is for her to have her own sense of identity and not just be a straight up Broly clone. And, you know, diverge from that trend and just make it her own story instead of just pleasing a certain fan base. And thankfully, she has a name. Kale. For a moment, we were swayed, myself included, that Caulifla was going to be the legendary Super Saiyan after a last-minute character change. It was fair to assume that because Toei had done this before in Super. Because remember that Jiren was going to be at the exhibition match for the Universe Survival arc? But no, he was switched out for Toppo. They could have easily just switched roles again, but they didn't. Instead, we got that original Super Saiyan from the promo, and another one! Once Kale powered up into her legendary form, it put all the rumours into sharp relief and we actually got something concrete. Okay Masako, you've just given us a bit of a history, so what are you trying to get at here? Well, a Twitter fan account for Kale messaged me about an idea that they had regarding this character. They stated that Kale, based on a little promo from a magazine many weeks ago, could actually fully control the legendary powers. This leaked image was among a mixture of other images, including one of Ribrienne in a magazine a couple of months back, and at the time, we thought it was just a variation on what we'd already seen, like, oh, it was just a stylized version that Toriyama drew because his style's changed quite a bit. Now that we have Kale fully established within Dragon Ball Super, I believe that that image holds a lot of credence inside her character development and her potential power. This particular sketch has regained a lot of interest inside the community, so thanks at Kale_Dragonball for the little tip-off. Before we continue, I would recommend that you go and check out Geekdom's video on a similar topic. It was very enlightening and, you know, he knows his stuff, so go check that out after this video. What I wish to discuss is that Kale is more than just a marketing gimmick for Toei. Nor is she solely a compromise between Toriyama and Toei, just that means they can get a Broly-like character in there and a female Super Saiyan. If this image is accurate to how Kale will appear during the tournament, then I believe that Kale has achieved something that Broly never did. Total control of her hidden power. Now, I'm not talking about, oh, Kale is stronger than Broly or vice versa, nothing to do with that. I am talking about being able to utilize fully one's power and apply it in a controlled manner. You know, retaining a certain degree of sanity and the ability to say more than a single word. Okay, so what do Kale and Broly have in common then? Well, for starters, their basic makeup is the same, there's no question about that. Both of them, whilst they're in their base forms, exude a certain degree of passiveness and a desire just to not get in the way. They don't make much of an impact in these forms and tend to just stay away from all the action, or really not exude any personality at all. There is an exception with Broly though. Since he's had far more exposure to this legendary power pretty much ever since he was born, his mind has been melded by it somewhat in comparison to Kale, who has only just discovered it. It was so bad for Broly, in fact, that Paragus had to find a way to control his mind so his power could be tempered, and Broly could regain some semblance of normality. As for Kale, I think she's going to be much safer because not only did she only just tap into this power, but Super Saiyans on the whole for the Universe 6 is entirely new at the same time. That and they probably don't have the legendary Super Saiyan mythos. Kaba was the first ever Super Saiyan to not originate from Universe 7. If we are going to use the whole Broly shtick with Kale and she is Brolina, then we have to safely assume that she's had a degree of sadness in her past, similar to Broly. A level of sadness which has kind of tainted her outlook on life, made her really meek and small and defensive, and really someone who doesn't stand up for themselves. In the 6th edition of Shenlong Times for Daizenshu 6, the Dragonball guides, there is a roundtable discussion about Broly's personality that I believe indirectly can be attributed to Kale too. When asked about which character made the most impact throughout the entire franchise, these guys said, "In my case, since it was the first movie I was animation supervisor on, it's Broly. He's outrageously strong, but there's something sad about him. I wondered about how to bring out that sort of facial expression." That was difficult, wasn't it? Goku alone couldn't win against Broly, no doubt. Broly, in terms of both Koyama-san's scenario and Yamamuro-san's character, has some hidden darkness to him. Even just standing there idly, he's ominous. During production, I couldn't tell whether he was scary or not. Koyama-san told me, "Oh, he's scary," and I was relieved. So there's a lot of ambiguity with Broly's character. Is he just a really sad man, or is he just a really angry man? Or sad and angry? Sangried? Back in the days of the first Broly movie, you know, when he wasn't complicated by 2 very, very bad sequels, when the character was far more straightforward and far less convoluted, there was also a degree of empathy that you could have towards the character. If you take away the premise of, oh, Goku cried as a baby, and instead replace that with a deep-seated resentment towards King Vegeta and therefore Vegeta, it would make things so much more compelling. Get revenge on the bastard that tried to kill you and your father, and if not, then just go after his son. It would be just as cathartic. That one change in that plot would have changed Broly's character for the better and actually made him far less divisive in the community. But no, this is Dragon Ball and it's a movie about Dragon Ball. It has to revolve around Goku. That's what movie-going customers have come to see, and that is exactly what they shall get. Might Kale have a similar backstory? Might her life have been just as painful? Did Caulifla's advances on Kaba, or at least supposed advances, because it's later confirmed that Caulifla has no interest in Kaba, tipped Kale over the edge at the time? Well, I think so. All that ambiguity towards feelings between Kaba and Caulifla just made Kale feel absolutely worthless. All that despair and emotional trauma manifested itself in the green-yellow aura that started to appear around the timid Saiyan, which is so closely related to Broly's legendary and profitable transformation. We currently don't know much about Kale's origins inside the show, other that she's the pupil, the protege, the dog's body of Caulifla, who is also running some kind of Saiyan biker gang, and we can only find out if we get some kind of flashback between now and the tournament. Something that can be explained away in the anime or in the manga. It doesn't mean we can't try though. Now, Kale's personality is very common to things that you would see in other types of anime. You know, those girls are really shy, they don't talk much, and they feel like they're worthless. Like, I'd say Hinata from Naruto times 10, or Shinobu from Love Hina. It's a trope we've seen time and time again. And since her character is modelled off of Broly, then we can safely assume that Broly has a similar personality in of himself if he was just a normal dude. If Broly hadn't been exposed to the Legendary Super Saiyan power until about Kale's age, then he probably is in a similar boat. He would just be a really shy guy. The website Psych Central has a comprehensive list about different types of personality and disorders. The one that I think best describes Kale and therefore Broly is Avoidant personality disorder. People with avoidant personality disorder experience long-standing feelings of inadequacy and are extremely sensitive to what others think about them. These feelings of inadequacy leads to the person to be socially inhibited and feel socially inept. Because of these feelings of inadequacy and inhibition, the person with avoidant personality disorder will seek to avoid work, school, and any activities that involve socializing or interacting with others. Their fearful and tense demeanor may elicit ridicule from others, which in turn confirms their self-doubts. They are very anxious about the possibility that they will react to criticism with blushing or crying. Throughout episode 93 of Super, Kale was extremely reluctant to try and tap into a Super Saiyan power, either just demeaning herself, or crying, or being defensive, or all a mix of everything. Even when she was first introduced, she did not say a word, she just looked on as Kaba and Caulifla talked. When she did eventually try and power up, she couldn't initially do it, and therefore Caulifla laid into her something fierce, and she was demeaned, made to feel worthless that she couldn't do it but Caulifla and Kaba could do it first time, roughly. This would only compound her emotional fragility. As for Broly, his avoidant personality disorder could have been stemmed from the fact that pretty much since the day he was born, he and his father were outcasts. They both had to be constantly on the run from the likes of Lord Frieza, whose empire was almighty at the time. They had to try and make ends meet however they can. It was a very disruptive childhood. However, unlike Kale, Broly's frustrations led to anger and violence. This was probably due to the fact that all these feelings of inadequacy were actually amplified by his overflowing ki, which started from the day he was born. You know, when your planet's been blown up and the king of your people tried to kill you because you were too strong. Yeah. He became increasingly lost to all the potential in his energy. Kale, though, she fell out of the power relatively easily, so there is hope for her. Once she found out that Caulifla was not interested at all in Kaba, her mood just changed completely. She fell out of the power and just almost fell out of the sky, really. Having had her greatest fear assured, Kale returned to normal. And then Kale might be in greater control of her faculties going forward. That image of Kale from that magazine implies that she has been able to control her legendary berserker power and actually exploit it to its full potential whilst remaining in complete control. That psychological barrier that had been plaguing her entire life might have been broken down, so she might be a completely different character now. She might be more confident, and you know what? Good on her. Broly might have been able to do this too, had he not been so traumatized. Had he got his revenge on Goku and then killed him, who's to say that he might not have fallen out of his power? Afterwards, he might have been able to power up to that form again, but then also remain in control and have his pupils back, and keep what little bit of sanity he had left. Then again, the damage to his psyche might have been too great, because this is almost 30 years of exposure to this berserker power. That's gotta do something bad to you. Kale, though, I think she's safe from her own emotional state. She can now go on to master what Broly failed to do. Kale might be a completely blatant homage to Broly, but she has some things going for her that Broly didn't. She is nowhere near as insane and has a greater chance of excelling in the fields that Broly could never try and accomplish given his complete insanity. She can conquer this transformation. This fills me with utter relief. She's her own character, she's not just a clone. There is hope for her yet. Now let's just see whether this image rings true for the actual Tournament of Power and whether this is just, a stylized Toriyama sketch just for funsies. We'll be able to see that in a few episodes' time. I'm actually excited for Kale now. If she can progress, then she'll have had some character development when we probably didn't expect it. And let's see whether this transformation can be controlled after all. Sorry Broly, you've been outclassed. So what do you guys think? Do you like Kale's transformation? Do you think that she could end up being stronger than Broly? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Until the next one, be sure to like and subscribe. Catch you later!